Hi everyone, my name is Shauna Spears and I'm currently a marriage and family therapist intern. And today I'm presenting effective relationship building, Love Thinks. The idea of Love Thinks here reminds us that we can use both our head and our heart to make informed decisions, especially about relationships, so we don't fall into the love is blind trap. So keep that phrase, Love Thinks, in your mind as we go through these slides. So, this information, I think it's important for you to know, is informed by Dr. John Van Epp's book. He wrote How to Avoid Falling in Love with a Jerk, and he has a number of resources that I'll discuss at the end. So, this presentation is geared toward you all, the campus resident advisors, so that you can take this information and share it with the students that you interact with throughout the year. This presentation isn't very long. But I do encourage that you take any questions that you have and you save them until the end where we can discuss them further. So let's get started. Why Love Thinks matters on campus. Well, we know college is full of emotionally charged situations. And let's be honest, we know that love and all that comes with it is incredibly attractive and it can sweep us off our feet. So it's no surprise that with close living quarters, exploring independence, new people, and the dating process, there is a lot to be aware of and prepared for. Because things can move so quickly in these situations, we often see that we often see relationships can escalate before people really know each other, because we often confuse emotional intensity and spark for emotional safety, but they are not the same. It's really important to pay attention to that. And with relationships and dating, there are a lot of highs and a lot of lows and a lot of chaos, especially when they're emotionally fueled and intense. The breakups can be catastrophic. The confusion can just be overwhelming. So your job as RAs is pretty heavy at times because you are often the first ones that students will come to after these difficult situations. So it's really important that you in your position are prepared with useful tools and an understanding of what effective relationships are so that you can share in those hallways and in the dorm rooms whenever it's needed. So the relationship attachment model. We want to talk about how it's kind of like a board for sound, okay? So think of it like that sound system equalizer you see right there above the couple on the slide. It has 5 distinct up and down sliders, or 5 connected bonds. The 5 bonds are to know, trust, rely, commit, and touch. And the idea is to balance these bonds in a relationship. But how do you do that? Well, you start by getting to know someone, who they are, how they handle pressure, how they treat the waiter that messes up an order, those kinds of things. And that also involves time. And that's on the far left side of our board here. So as we're taking inventory, we've got time working with us and we're starting to get to know this person. We're going to be working on moving up those other dials if we're ready for it. Building up that trust, determining if we can rely on them. Commitment will then come. And finally, touch. Touch is one of those things that we save until the very end. So it's important to note that when one dial, especially touch, gets ahead of the others, things can fall out of place. And it can be really devastating. So the safe zone rule is this, the bottom bullet for you there. Never go further in one bonding area than you have gone in the previous. Pay attention to what that last word is, previous. So we do have to work from left to right. Again, it's difficult, but we can do it. All right, well, let's see. Do you agree with this statement? Most people can only keep up their best behavior for about 3 months. Well, I'm guessing as you thought about it, you had some ideas pop into your mind, maybe a person where you completely understood that, 3 months is a good guideline. And that's what we want it to be, is a guideline. Because it may not be true of everyone, but it does help us to kind of keep some things in reserve and to protect ourselves as we're dating. So if we hold by this 3-month rule, then we can understand that dating is more about pacing the relationship. You know the phrase, it's a marathon, not a sprint. That can apply here. So pace, don't race, because time reveals truth, patterns, and red flags. And some of those common red flags are pushing being physical, avoiding responsibility, not respecting boundaries. And us, as the outsiders in looking at a relationship, we can see those easier often than the people inside the relationship. And you as an RA can possibly be the one that points those red flags out and helps that person see something that they're a little bit blind to, possibly. But that's why your position is so important. All right. So as RAs, you guys have already heard some great things about what you can do and the things you need to pay attention for. But I'm going to be a little bit more specific here. I want you to first understand that you don't need to be a relationship counselor to make a difference. We don't expect that of you. That would be too much to ask. You guys already do so much. But you can simply ask questions to cause reflection. Apply principles like the RAM model when you can. And you can also model it for yourself. So let's break these down a little bit. Some of those questions to cause reflection can be something like, what part of your relationship seems to be moving the fastest right now? The no part, trust, rely, commitment, or is it touch? Those questions, especially if they're familiar with the RAM model, can be very, very impactful. We can also apply those principles, like I said, in a discussion or in a meeting. This is where we would, of course, teach the RAM enough to where they understand what they're looking at. But we can also ask the deeper questions. How soon can you trust someone? Throw that out and see what comes up and have a good discussion, because we never know what could positively come out of that. And we can always be sure that we're paying attention and having this discussion and it's open and ready to go. And modeling it for yourself. Again, this is big. You guys are in a position of authority and other students are looking to you. So pay attention to what you're doing, and it'll make a difference not only in your life, but those lives of the people that watch you. So to wrap this up, remember that love thinks means setting a pace during the high emotional feelings that are common while dating. Our hearts and our minds need to be working together. They don't work alone, because that's when we see some problems. Remember here that we need to know before we trust, pace before we promise, and just keep in mind that healthy love grows with the right kinds of environments, the right kinds of time, and the right kinds of things that you put into it. And we're going to call that here your head, your heart, and time. All of those need to be in sync, just like you would need when you're approaching a flower in a garden. It has to have the right soil, the right sunlight, the right seeds. So keep those things in mind. And the challenge for you here is to mentor your students well, to be the voice that reminds them of these truths and listens while they're going through their dating experience. Because sometimes just asking questions can make all the difference. Speaking of questions, we're going to get there right now, but I do want to thank you for all the hard work you put in for your students. I appreciate your attention and your time today. And finally, that information about Dr. Van Epps' book and other resources, all of that can be found on mylovethinks.com. All right, so what questions do you have for me? And finally, this is the reference slide for Dr. Van Epps' book, How to Avoid Falling in Love with a Jerk, which again informed our presentation today. Thank you so much, and and have a blessed day.